Well, good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name's Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Wing Commander Mike Warby. We warmly welcome the family of Private Horace William Herbert Gray, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors. Could I ask you to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem? If you're able to, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations over more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Horace Gray, who was killed while fighting on Gallipoli during the First World War. Horace William Herbert Gray was born in 1899 and was one of 9 children of William and Margaret Gray of the inner Sydney suburb of Campsie. After attending Burke Street School in Surrey Hills, where he was involved in the local cadet battalion, Horace was working as a labourer when news of the Gallipoli landings reached Australia. On the 7th of May 1915, Gray travelled to Liverpool military camp, where he lied about his age to enlist in the Australian Imperial Force. Aged 16 at the time, he convinced the recruiting officers that he was 19 and met the strict recruiting standards to serve overseas. After just 6 weeks of training at Liverpool, Private Horace Gray embarked for Egypt as an original member of the 19th Battalion, destined for the fighting in the Dardanelles. The 19th Battalion landed on Gallipoli on the 21st of August 1915 during the final stages of the August Offensive. It was immediately drawn into the bitter fighting for Hill 60, during which it plugged a gap in the British line following confused fighting to the north of Anzac Cove. It was then employed in the defence of Pope's Hill, where it remained until the evacuation 4 months later. During this time, the men of the 19th Battalion endured the daily routine of fighting at Pope's Hill. Rifle and machine gun fire was heavy both day and night, and bombing duels were constant. Bombs from German aircraft and shells from Turkish artillery fell on their positions, and mines were sometimes detonated beneath the Australian trenches. Trenches were destroyed as soon as they were repaired. For the 19th Battalion, the 9th of November 1915 was a regular day of manning the defences at Pope's Hill. Turkish troops directed machine gun fire at the sandbags protecting a newly constructed sap which had been driven towards the Turkish lines over previous days. Rifle grenades rained down on their positions earlier in the day, and catapult bombs and Garland mortars were flung towards them later on. Amidst the maelstrom of fighting, Horace Gray was killed. He was 17 years old. He was buried at Shrapnel Valley Cemetery nearby. He has no epitaph on his grave, nor was his parents' grief recorded in the documents that succeeded him. Their loss and sense of sadness was a very private one, but one that no doubt cast a long shadow on the Gray family. Horace Gray is listed on the Roll of Honour on your left, along with 60,000 others from the First World War. His is just one of the many stories of courage and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Horace Gray, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you a very good evening. Thank you.